Welcome back to another episode of Fast Casual Nation. As you guys know, this is the show that really breaks down the business of fast casual in the restaurant industry and really kind of leaning towards some of the categories that are starting, not necessarily encroach, but they definitely track well with the fast casual consumer and other competitive fast casual brands. So we're going to dive into that topic today with the CEO of Del Taco, Mr. John Cappasola. Great to have you on the show today.
Yeah, Paul, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So John, let's jump into a little bit about your background, kind of the current strategy of what Del Taco is doing. Where are you guys standing in terms of unit count, all that good stuff?
Well, okay, let's start with me, I guess, for a moment. So 30-year retail restaurant guy. Really started my career behind the front counter at a retail store, and when I was in college, freshman year of college, and I realized that was my passion: serving guests and developing people and building strong teams and watching those teams achieve great results. That's what I wanted to do. So I spent really the first 10 years of my career in operations, and then I pivoted. And for the last 20 years or so, I've been working in kind of the HQ on strategy and brand, et cetera. And I've been with Del Taco now for a better part of 10 years, just over 10 years. And we've had a great run here and repositioned the brand. And it's a great culture with great franchisees. And we've got a lot ahead of us.
Yeah, I love the commitment that you've had, because, a lot of executives, kind of move around a little bit in the space. Your tenure at Del Taco is one to be admired, I think, as you get a chance to kind of go through the different areas of a brand like what you've done, and now being able to lead it gives you some great insights to where the brand needs to go as a, kind of a futuristic standpoint. When you understand all the cogs in the wheel, it's definitely an advantage for sure. When you look at kind of the strategy, you sit down, you get your whiteboard, your mind maps, your exec team all together, and you kind of look at where we've come over this last year and where Del Taco needs to be in the next, say, 18 to 24 months. What are the things that you guys are focused in on? Obviously, we're going to jump into Fresh Flex, but kind of give us an overview of where you guys are pointing your guns.
Yeah, no, great question. I think when everything starts with the brand position for us, and we think it's pretty unique and really the driver of our growth opportunity at Del Taco. So we like to characterize our positioning as a value-oriented QSR plus brand. So what does that mean? It's pretty simple. It's about celebrating this unique ability that we have as a drive-through QSR. We've got great speed and convenience, and guests know us for that, and been doing that for decades. And along with that, we've got best-in-class kind of category-leading value and affordability, because we've got this awesome barbell menu strategy that really stands for everyday value to the consumer. And then the thing that makes us most unique is the fact that we pair those things under the same roof with freshly prepared quality ingredients. So fast casual like quality.
Right.
So we kind of call this our QSR plus brand dichotomy, if you will, that we're real proud of.
Yeah. I like the approach, Del Taco, when I look at it and analyze your brand. We spend quite a bit of time here looking over our top 250 in the space, and then we look at about 50 brands that are kind of this hybrid, both on the casual dining side and then also on the QSR side. Yours being one on the QSR side that kind of, advances the quality up to what is very competitive with what most fast casuals operate at. The price point, Del Taco's price point is much more competitive. How are you guys able to pull off that elevated menu? Because you're kind of stepping above the level of where Taco Bell is kind of playing, but yet maybe just a little bit under the Chipotle. But the value proposition is very unique and different. How are you guys able to pull that off?
Yeah, so a big piece of it is our operating process and our operating playbook. So when you think about all that fresh prep that we do, we've kind of over time been able to systematize that in a way that it's really very efficient from a labor standpoint. How we think about the times during the day that we do the fresh prep, and we're doing things like grating cheese right off the block from 40-pound blocks of cheddar, and
Right.
slow cooking beans that take 3 hours, and we bring in whole produce. So those things can't be done during peak times in a QSR
Yep.
environment when you're working the drive-through at lunch, et cetera. So we've got a pretty good operating system, pretty good cadence on when we do that for that labor efficiency piece. And the other thing is we buy direct. So we are bringing in the raw ingredient. We are bringing in the whole ingredient in many cases, and we're actually taking that and turning it into something special at the store, like we do we bring in whole avocados and we turn that into
Right.
fresh from scratch guacamole, or whole tomatoes that we turn into pico de gallo. Those sorts of moves that we make actually cut that middleman out a bit and help us on the cost structure as well.
So supply chain is going to be key there, but like you said, the lineage of operational tactics that you guys have built into the brand, kind of baked in, that you can kind of pass that on to the consumer, but still offering this elevated product. So that's amazing. How many total units are you guys setting out currently?
So we have just about 600 total units, and the environment that we operate within is we have about 50% operated by the company. So we are an operator. We consider ourselves
Right.
the largest franchisee, and that's how we behave, and that's how we operate very transparently with our franchise system. And then obviously the other 50% is franchise, and that's really the growing part of our brand, and really exciting part of our brand is our franchise growth, specifically outside of some of our core, Western markets where we're seeing a lot of growth outside of California. So that's been
Yeah.
exciting for the brand over the last few years, and seeing those franchisees have a lot of success.
Right. John, so we're getting into kind of this whole design theme that is moving the restaurant industry in a much more aggressive path toward kind of reformatting, looking at new prototypes, kind of dealing with a whole new consumer mindset of how people are getting food. You guys came up with something called Fresh Flex. Explain it to us. Talk to us about some of the innovations you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'd love to. Fresh Flex is about creating the most efficient, convenient, enjoyable environment possible for our guests, but also our team members and our franchisees. I mean, it's a big part of the insights as we developed Fresh Flex. It was very collaborative between the consumer insights that we had, our operator insights, what our franchisees felt like they needed to be successful. So when we talk about Fresh Flex, we like to use kind of three phrases. It's flexible, it's scalable, and it's designed for the future. So let me kind of tackle that and unpack that for you a little bit. So it was, as far as the flexibility part goes, it was designed to set the brand apart. So we wanted to be able to have greater access to real estate in our trade areas, which would give our franchisees almost a portfolio approach to help the brand to grow and give the brand more opportunities for growth. So when you look at the prototype, you can see that we have a number of different avenues that you can take through our menu of venues approach, from a drive-through only, roughly 1,200 square foot, building, to all the way up to a dining room, setting that is more traditionally what we've built, that is more along the lines around 2,300 square foot, and everything in between. So we've kind of set it up for that real estate access and flexibility in that area. And then, on the innovative side, I think that's where the word fresh comes in. We talked about our positioning and freshness in our positioning. So that's one element of fresh. But the other element is that we wanted to, give the brand a fresh new look, and it's a fresh take on Del Taco.
Yeah.
So some of the design elements and some of the tech that we brought in really speaks to the modernization of the brand and the consumer experience, and we're excited about that. And then the last piece around scalability that I think our team just did an awesome job with was we developed this concept that we call our scalable kitchen, and the idea is, whether you're in a 1,200 square foot build out, or you're a 2,300 square foot build out, or a conversion, that kitchen should not change, and it needs to be uniform. And that's the thing that's going to connect with the operator and make it easier for them to execute consistently, give our guests great experiences consistently across all of these different types of venue strategies, if you will, through our menu of venues approach. So that scalable kitchen's a big deal for us because we are very operationally focused, and we want to make sure we set our franchisees up for success.
Yeah, in some of the photos that we just saw, it was intriguing the different kinds of models that you guys are serving. Obviously, the drive-through is kind of your cornerstone of how you service guests, but it looked like you had an inside curbside pickup lane, so to speak, and then you had kind of this park and eat kind of approach. With being able to
Yeah.
serve really four models there, you've got drive-through, in-store dining, possibly a curbside, and then maybe someone who's going in, grabbing their food, and then pulling in and maybe eating there. Is that kind of the flexibility you're trying to operate under for the operations in the future?
That's right. Access is key. And we
Yeah,
want to give the guest access to the brand, whichever way they want that access. And we're seeing, especially with the pandemic, technology adoption has,
right.
been moving quite along. I mean, that adoption curve really out of necessity has occurred in our category between delivery and order ahead, and folks using different types of ways to do more off-premise type of behaviors. And so what we see with Fresh Flex and what we've tried to build in is all of those things we've observed that are absolutely options and pieces that we can take advantage of because of technology. So we've got the ability to do a double drive-through Y lane in a situation maybe where we have a drive-through only building, and we want to
Right.
make sure that we've got the best and most efficient experience for the guests from a throughput standpoint, from a service standpoint. We also have this ability with our mobile app to really seamlessly order ahead, whether you want to do delivery or whether you want to, eat on site at the restaurant. So
Mm-hmm.
that park and get it model was really derived off of curbside pickup,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which you see in the category and fast casual and QSR and others. And so the idea was, we know that a lot of guests in QSR, they're on the go and they want to be able to, grab their food and maybe park under a tree or park under a covered canopy and have some shade and spend 15 minutes and, relax and then move on to their next thing, right? Whatever that thing might be. So we feel like we can address a lot of that on and off premise behavior that's really started to occur as it relates to the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely a lot of options there. I think that's very cool in the sense that you guys have really kind of expanded upon that. Let's talk about real estate acquisition, because obviously that is one of the key elements for brand growth. If you look back in the explosion of the fast casual sector, around 2008, during an economic downturn, there was a lot more available real estate. There are many pundits and analysts now saying the same thing, that there could be some good real estate potentially, not necessarily all the A spots, because a lot of those are kind of already taken up. Is there a strategy for Del Taco to advance your growth around some of this potential real estate opportunity that may exist?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really a big piece of our menu of venues approach. So Fresh Flex enables this, what we're calling our menu of venues strategy. And what that really does for franchisees is it allows them to do what they do best, which is be even more entrepreneurial, look
Yeah,
for opportunities where, maybe previously they didn't exist with the brand because we were doing a freestanding and ground up, building that was typically, fairly similar. The parcel size, the size of the building, et cetera. So thanks to the flexible nature, of this prototype menu of venues, we're now offering really multiple build out options, and that's what we
yeah.
think is going to provide and maximize the most development opportunities for our franchisees. It's just going to give you greater access to real estate, and you can grow in a number of ways now, including through a small footprint if you'd like. And incidentally, that drive-through only model, we believe we can get on a parcel size that is, about 60% of the size that we currently have built
Right.
traditionally at about 2,300 square foot. So
Mm-hmm.
not only does it save you from square footage and construction, but it also saves you potentially from a standpoint of the size of parcel you
Right.
can get the brand onto. So overall, we think it's a smart model, definitely a model that's looking forward and taking advantage of opportunities so that franchisees can continue to grow the brand.
Yeah, and if you look at consumer trends here over the past year, uh, this sector, including QSR, meaning fast casual and QSR, have been kind of somewhat insulated for the operators that are really good at what they do. They've seen year-over-year growth even during the pandemic and some of the things that were happening. But now that we start to kind of come out of this, even the January numbers that we're starting to see are showing really good signs of potential growth here. So this is an opportunity, and it's definitely one that has kind of primed the consumer that we're dealing with today in a whole new way that potentially could even increase the amount of off-premises or off-prem and food away from restaurant, but also food away from home in a sense, that could be really expanding the industry. What are your thoughts on how you guys will be able to prepare for this potential growth that's coming?
Well, I think the good news for us and other drive-through QSRs is that, convenience has always been a massively important trait.
Yeah.
If you are in our space, it is, you've got to be able to deliver the food hot, and hot food hot, cold food cold, through that drive-through with great speed and service. And our business model is designed to do that. So whether we pivot from a drive-through transaction to a delivery transaction or to a park and get it or curbside type of a transaction, I think the same tenets or the same fundamentals are at play. You need to be able to deliver a great experience with the food, whether it's being driven to the home or picked up through the drive-through and driven back to work. And we think we can do that. So for us, all of these new avenues of access and convenience for the guests are just natural extensions off of our brand.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are definitely poised in the right position, I think, to really take advantage of this. Let's talk, and especially with this new prototype that you're developing with a smaller footprint, because that's going to really open some real estate options up for you. Let's talk about a couple more trends that are happening currently. One, we'll just jump right into it, the plant-based meat phenomenon and also just plant-based trends in general. Del Taco is one of the brands that obviously a first mover with Beyond Meat. But now we're seeing bigger plant-based trends happening in mainstream consumer demands. What are your thoughts on this, and how are you guys prepared?
Well, first off, we are, a big time, believer in menu innovation, and we think we can do it well in our environment through a model we call combined solutions, which is this model that completely respects operations and our operators' ability to deliver the brand promise through that drive-through window or at that counter or through delivery. So we're always cognizant of that piece, but we believe we can solve for, and our team can solve for, great innovation on the menu, and we've really got a great track record of doing that over the years. So we lean into consumer trends and innovation, and we view it as opportunities to create new relationships with guests, and that's how we thought about plant-based with our relationship with Beyond. We looked at it. We knew we were getting into it early, and there was not another MQSR, if you will, that was doing it, and so we were a first mover. And what we liked about it was what we saw in the data was that it was generally consumers that were using fast casual and QSR that were looking to just switch it up a bit. They weren't necessarily looking to completely eliminate animal protein from their diets. They wanted to be able to mix it up and do some different things and maybe feel like they were helping themselves from a health and wellness perspective a little bit more than their maybe typical diet with animal protein. So whether you believe in that or not, the idea is that there is consumer pull for it, some consumer demand that we started to see encroach into our category, and we wanted to be a part of that. And Beyond helped us work with our teams to develop a great product here at Del Taco.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting move as we see, some very select QSRs that have started to move into this space, and obviously also with the fast casual categories that are kind of interesting to watch, especially around this movement, because I think if it does take on and we continue to see the growth, could be a lot more opportunity in terms of menu expansion. Let's talk about packaging real quick, because that is something that a lot of operators are a little bit concerned about now, just the amount of packaging that we're using, the amount that's hitting the streets, and now could be putting the packaging companies almost in a role of a bad actor in the next few years. If this phenomenon continues with delivery and takeout, most everybody thinks it's going to. Do you see packaging, or I should say, how do you see packaging for Del Taco in the
You can
future?
say
Where
you can say taco because that's our ticker symbol on Nasdaq. So
I
taco's
know.
fine.
I keep
We'll take
thinking
it.
ticker
Yeah,
symbol,
yeah.
but what do you see moving forward here? Sustainable packaging, yes. Plant-based packaging, all those kind of things. How committed are you guys in moving this direction?
Well, I definitely say all of the above are being looked at and thought about across our category, right? So that is the thing you have to recognize immediately, which is there's definitely a trend in this direction, and for good reason. And so in regards to Del Taco, as we think about packaging, one of the big things that we've learned through this pandemic is that simplification on the menu, simplification in the back of the house with operations is so critical to create efficiency with our model and our operations, and it translates to things like greater labor efficiency and ease of execution, so you can deliver better guest experiences. So consolidating packaging has been a strategy
Right.
that we've been implementing. Trying to take SKUs out of the back of the house. Using packaging in a more multifaceted manner, looking at, okay, could we tweak builds or ingredient profiles a little bit so that we can deliver the same great taste and experience to the guests,
Hmm.
but do it in a more environmentally friendly way that also helps our operations. So I
Yeah.
think this trend is here to stay, and we all have to wrestle with what the right fit is for your brand, based on the environmental, focus that you have, and based on the operational focus that you have. And for us, it's something that's going to be an ongoing kind of evolution at Del Taco.
Yeah, and very interesting. I think this is going to be a kind of a fun thing to watch, especially because everybody's kind of racing to the gate right now in terms of providing a new innovative packaging product and all that, as well as what's happening at the brand level. John, let's jump into my last question for you, and that is, when you look at the challenges the industry is facing currently, next year, 18 months, what would you say is up in the center of your bullseye today?
Well, no, the consumer is always at the center of our bullseye, and how they're feeling, how they're behaving. Economically, we think that there's pressure likely already happening and coming for that consumer, and we want to be right there to be able to serve our guests no matter whether
Right.
it's good times or bad times, and anticipating that there could be some pressure there over time. We want to make sure that our value position, our everyday value position, is front and center. We'll always innovate on the lower end of our barbell from a price point standpoint.
Hmm.
So I think that is a key point for us, is we want to lean into our strength, and that is value and affordability, which also then will align with what the consumer needs in our category, and that's why they come to QSR and QSR drive-thru, and we can deliver a pretty great value proposition to them that we feel good about, because we feel like the margins are right and the volume is right, and we can deliver a great experience for folks where they really feel good about the brand, and overall, it's a win-win both for Del Taco and the consumer. So I think you've got to recognize those pressures that are prevalent, and you've got to be able to kind of pivot and make sure your value proposition is aligned with that.
Yeah, I think you guys are in a good spot, definitely, whichever way. If we do get some economic pressures, QSR always seems to kind of control the bellwether of food. And even if we do see, some potential growth here, there's some opportunities there for sure that you guys can take advantage of. John Cappasola, CEO of Del Taco, great having you on the show today. Thank you so much for stopping in.
Great, Paul. It was a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
You bet. All right, so you guys are listening in over on the podcast. Make sure, whether it's on iTunes, Spotify, over on Amazon, make sure and leave us a rating. That's how we kind of get feedback from our audience. It's also how we get great ideas of who we should have on the show. That's really something that we try to engage our audience to give us as much feedback as you can, because really this show is about giving you what you want in helping your restaurant business, or whatever kind of business you're in. If you're around the industry, that's what Fast Casual Nation is for. Also, you can hit us up at producer@foodabletv.com, or me on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time here on Fast Casual Nation.